Welcome back here on the Senior Network. Charlie, we were just talking about earlier with your role, obviously we know that as your spiritual counselor. Tell us a little bit, I know there's different layers to that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Layers, wow, that's a great word. You can begin to peel those layers back as time goes on, and the healing begins to take place. There is one thing that I would like to interject here is that this is a very difficult journey if you find yourself facing it, and you're tempted to want to do it alone. You know, I'm a grown up. I can handle this. I should. And that's probably the worst advice you could ever give yourself. If you find yourself struggling with it, reach out for help. Either through your faith base, whatever that might be, your church, your synagogue. Reach out to people who are skilled in that kind of work. We have a number of support groups that we operate through Hospice Care of the Lowcountry, and we find a great deal of healing goes on in there. We become a pretty strong family together, where we can laugh together and cry together and talk about what the needs are. And it's really in that kind of setting that people begin to peel those layers back and realize where they are in that. There is a temptation for people to think that working through your sorrow and working through your grief is a straight line, that you're going to go from point A to point B to C, and it really looks more like a bowl of spaghetti than it does a straight line. You find yourself backing up 2 steps, 4 steps, going forward 5 steps, coming back, and most of the time you feel like you're losing ground. And really what's happening is paradoxical, because as you begin to go back over those things, you discover that those are some difficult healing times. That's your word layer was really important there. You begin to peel some of those layers back, and sometimes people move forward and they're doing okay, and 6 months in, they wonder what, will this ever end? Maybe 2 years, 5 years, you begin to wonder, is this ever going to end? And people talk about trying to get through it, and one of the things that we try and communicate, especially in the holidays, is you don't ever get through it, you figure out how to take it with you.
Learn to live with it.
Yeah, the with preposition is really important there. As you begin to move through with it, you find that the tools inside yourself, your own emotional equipment, to handle that loss and handle that grief. And it's a long process, and you kind of really have to give yourself a break and be kind to yourself in the length of time it takes to reach a different point in your life.
You had mentioned, which is a great point, your support services, support groups. What's that look like, a support group? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, first of all, after, you all may not know this, but all hospices are required to maintain a close contact with families for 13 months after the patient passes.
Did not know that, okay.
Our bereavement program sends out emails and letters and phone calls on significant dates and times. And usually what we're also doing as we begin to reach a certain point in the family's life is we inform them of the programs that are there, the groups that are available. And very often, sometimes, family members will come before their loved one passes. We've had a number of times where people join and just kind of get a feel for what's going on. And then they'll plug back into the program after their loved one passes. But what it looks like is very much a setting like this.
Okay.
We tell our stories as new people come in. Everybody in the group sort of says, this is my loss. This is where I am in my loss and my grief journey, and this is what the group has meant for me. And then the individual can or not verbalize their own story. Sometimes they just didn't listen. But most of the time it's telling the stories, because what we find in the way that our program is constructed is that the individuals themselves begin to support each other. When an individual comes into the group for the first time, they usually think they're crazy until they realize everybody else in the room is crazy too, and then they're not so crazy anymore.
Right.
Because they can say, "Oh, this is normal." Yeah, in your new abnormal, this is normal, and that's where the support really comes from. Is from each other. And Barbara Scobie, our bereavement coordinator, and I, we kind of join together in that and push it forward and just sort of peel back some of the layers.
And that's, outside of that, I know you guys also, not in the support groups, but you have you have social workers, registered nurses. Tell us a little bit about that whole support group. Yeah,
we do the team, we call that the psychosocial and medical teams that we bring to the program, to a family.
Right.
We have licensed social workers. They all have their master's degrees, and they bring a certain measure of insights into the family loss and the family dynamic. We coordinate that together. My role, of course, is to sort of push back on and open up eternal questions for people of faith, and even people that may not have a faith,
Sure.
or they're not quite sure what to do with their faith. I just provide a safe space for them to begin to ask questions and probe their own hearts and their own minds about those matters. And as well, our social workers are skilled in counseling, grief counseling, loss counseling. We have a number of one-on-one meetings that we work with.
Sure.
And so we can set them up, and I would want the community to know that you do not have to be on our services in order to benefit from those services. About half of the people that are in our support groups come from the community. They either find out about us through word of mouth. Every once in a while somebody will go online and find where the support groups are meeting, and they'll just wander into the church where we meet.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And sometimes they'll call the office, and our social workers will set up one-on-one counseling times with them to walk through some really difficult losses, because it can be complicated.
Very good information. Well, you guys have a wonderful reputation out there. You really do.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. Natalie, I know the holidays are here. We were talking about first of the year 2020. I can't believe it's saying that. Sounds really different, doesn't it?
It's strange.
Any changes with Optimal moving into the new year? I'm sure you guys are still growing and developing.
Yeah, no, we've got our sights set on looking at different ways that we can use the new products and new technology out there. Being that we're family owned and operated, we work with all types and makes and manufacturers. Sure. Typically in the first half of the year is when you see manufacturers putting out their new technology. So we've always kind of waiting and keeping an eye on that and how it can help people.
Great information. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you
to
so
be
much,
here.
Natalie. Stay with us. We'll be right back on the Senior Network.